Hmm. How do I want to do this? All of these need to be corrected in a certain sense. 1, 5, 2, 5, 100. Okay, so 160. Ooh, you there now?
Hello there.
Hey. Okay. Yeah, so something I was thinking actually is I got a couple of like Sonic fans on my channel. So
Oh yeah.
I was wondering just what do you think of that like new Sonic game thing that has all the trailers for it? Sonic Frontiers or whatever it is. You seen any of the trailers for it or anything like that?
I've seen a couple.
Yeah, I got some people who are like hyped about it and they're like, Sonic is back, dude, my childhood is saved. All this kind of stuff.
Yep.
I'm open-minded about it. Like, the more I see it, the less I think it's gonna be bad. At worst, it probably will be meh. But, I kinda like it, the open world kind of a thing. I think it's actually a good idea for Sonic, because you'll have a big place to go fast in. I like going fast. That was the limits of the boost games, is that even though you could go fast, a lot of those games were just hallways. So now I have a big world to go fast in.
Yep.
So I've got some people who are kind of like all hyped about it, and I'm not like absolutely hyped about it, but I'm kind of hyped for it. I'm like, yeah, you know, but Ayo, lol, sorry, couldn't make it back yesterday. Tesseria. Oh, that's Tesseria. I really like Tesseria. Tesseria is like one of my old, well, not old viewers, but he showed up for a lot and he's like been around a long time, so sometimes we'll go off about like back in our day kind of stuff. So, well, you recently had like Toho 18.5 come out. Did you have any like thoughts on that? Not sure if I'm hearing you, or maybe you're just not saying anything.
Oh, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
I'm here.
Yeah, you just like playing a game right now or something? That's fine if you want to do
No,
that.
I was just fully watching the edit my friend did of one of my streams.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Really freaking good. Like, actually, it's fucking incredible.
I could clip my stuff, but I'm just too lazy to do it. Even though one of the things I do most often is clip things. I clip things all the time, but clipping my
I don't usually laugh at myself, but oh my god, this edit of just me is amazing.
Well, I didn't get to see that yet, but I'll check it out if it's that good.
I genuinely really enjoyed watching it. Just a bunch of pointless edits.
That's kind of surprising, because I don't... Well, I guess you can clip anything if you have enough skill, so...
Oh yeah, they took like just 8 minutes of me just shouting and shit and made it into, and just edited it around.
Alright. Well... I'm interested just to see it, because I've already seen like a lot of your streams anyway, so I'd just be interested to see how they do it exactly. I honestly think, like, there could be a lot of funny things made out of me. Like, certain, like, moments from me that could just be edited. I think they could be pretty funny, but... You would need someone else.
In my case, I don't genuinely find myself a funny person, but when I watch this, it entertains me to hell.
Well, that's the thing, it's like, I just think you need someone else to do it, right? Like, I wouldn't be able to, like, edit a clip thing of myself very well. I don't think, because I would just have sort of a difficulty getting into the context of that. But if you had someone else, then they can do it, and that would just be cool in general. But lol, sorry, couldn't make it back yesterday. Well, Tesseria, you woke up at like, what was it, 2 in the afternoon for me? I mean, we're in the same time zone, so no problem though. But I like when anyone shows up, but yeah, at this point I kind of just like to invite people if I have the chance, so I usually...
And why not? It's fun to do that.
Yeah, just, keep company, so, I'll throw out some invites to people, whoever's got the time, and, just take a bit to chill, because, may as well do it. This is going to take a long time, so, may as well just use it as an opportunity to, chill with the lads and all that. So, I remember there was this whole controversy about how they wanted to take the movie Sonic voice and make it the voice in the games. And they like fired the guy who is the one in the games, who is also Chris Redfield, if I'm remembering right. But then they like brought him back, which I support in the end. I think the movie Sonic voice is better than the current one, but I would just be weirded out if we had movie Sonic as game Sonic. I would just be weirded out by that.
Yeah, that would be kind of weird. I'll be back in a second, though. Gotta go let my dog outside and stuff.
Alright, no problem.
I will return in due time.
Okay. Numerous theories, which is what I knew. Knew of the islands, stylish contact, nation's great expedition, the islands. Uninhabited, but noting ruins of great buildings. Contingent contingent reopen the back entry. As the mission place. Coast. Carrying representing and survive by discoveries made in my communities. Town was traded with okay. Traded between the 1st and 4th centuries. That's a very... They say they have inhabitants, but they say they were inhabited at this time. Okay, I'm gonna estimate at 50. 50 is about what I would say. Let's see. And we're safe this time too, as long as we remember all this stuff. I still gotta do Cape Verde, sadly. But we are safe so far. Have this back. Alright. Okay, that's looking good so far. That's looking good. Impressed at that. Okay. So we'll correct the previous as well. I'm wondering if this is some kind of built-in glitch. Shouldn't be, but I'm wondering if it is. Let's see, 160 and then 150. It's with that one and it's with that one, so both of them are corrected. Regrettably. Verde, and then let's get that in there and be good. We'll open that one up again. Abraham Tower, yes. And commander's named Abraham Tower. That will actually be the next video I make, which is... Next video I'm going to do will be all the Eggman cutscenes in Shadow of the Hedgehog. I'm looking forward to that.
There we go.
Okay.
I return.
Yep. Yeah, one of the Sonic fans on my channel is, he loved Sonic Unleashed. And he likes Black Knight too, so he's a real fan of that.
I do like Black Knight.
Yeah, he's a fan of that era. And he's all pumped. He's all like, oh man, the story's gonna be good this time. I know it's gonna be good, dude. And I'm like, yeah, we'll see. You know what I mean? We'll see. No, but he's. It's good that he's all excited about it, because you know what I mean. You don't always find someone who isn't. I mean, with Sonic, you have a lot of people who are kind of disillusioned. So it's good that he's all excited about all that stuff. So
yeah, it's nice to be excited about stuff.
Well, there's have you seen any of those 3D Sonic fan game kind of things? There's this engine they made, and a lot of people using this particular engine for these various fan games they've made. It's kind of a more floaty sort of engine. There was one game that came out that was controversial or something.
Yep.
Yeah. They basically try to profit off of it and this and that, and people were like, don't try to profit off of it or Sega's gonna kill us like Nintendo does and all this. But apparently all they do now is ban people on Twitter for criticizing their game or something. So
no.
Yeah, they got all touchy about it now. And I just find it funny, but yeah, so there's that one other Sonic thing. I don't know, it's some collection thing. So I'm like,
don't like that.
I don't remember exactly what it was, but I remember people complaining about that too. Because I guess why not?
Yeah, people complain about everything.
It's well, you keep there are all these re-releases that keep coming out, which end up really sucking. It's kind of like we're returning to Sonic Genesis or something, where you had that Grand Theft Auto remake thing, where they were remade very lazily, which I just found funny because the PS2 GTA games, you have them on phones these days, and yet you couldn't port it to a console at this point. Like, a lot of it's kind of hilarious, honestly. But like the old GTA's are on like everything, and they're like dirt cheap. So if someone really wants to play them, it's not hard to get them.
Yep.
Have you ever like beaten a GTA game?
Or beaten one?
Yeah.
Yes, I actually have.
Ah, really? I've never actually beaten one. I just wander around, go on an adventure for a bit. But I'm considering maybe trying to beat San Andreas, because there was this funny mod where they turned like a World War II game into like GTA San Andreas. And I watched it, and it was like hilarious, because you could like play as the police, or you like play as gangs and like take over like squares in the neighborhood. And I thought it was just really funny. Because the thing is, like,
Grove Street.
Yeah. So that kind of like made me interested in maybe actually like trying to beat it and like learning how the map is. Because like with GTA, the reason why I'll just pick them up very briefly is because I don't want to actually like learn how the map works. So I want it to be kind of like a new experience every time I go back. Because if I end up playing one and like actually like completing it, then I would know how it all works, and then like the imagination would be lost. So that's why I'm kind of like wary of actually like going all the way with it.
Oh
yeah. Yeah. Because for me, I just like that like childhood kind of fun of just getting to run around the world and not knowing where you're going, just kind of like doing whatever. So yeah, usually like when I play San Andreas, I'll just get on the bike.
I have fun with San Andreas.
Yeah, I get on the bike and just go for a little journey around, all that. Sometimes I won't even like do anything bad. I'll just go on the little bike there and just go on a little adventure until I'm, done, and then that's it. So that's something. Well, there are some people who do like playthroughs of games now, but it's like a relaxed playthrough. Like I've seen people do like a Minecraft playthrough, but it's meant to just give you that like calm adventure vibe. So I find that kind of, I don't really watch those like for Minecraft anyway, but I find that cool because a lot more effort goes into it than you would think. Just like playing the game in this certain way where it's like cinematic and immersive and all that. So maybe they can expand the genre. I know a lot of people who would play Majora's Mask that way. They would just go around and do these little side quests and do these little things and set up their own kind of little timeline event thing. Did you ever do that with Majora's Mask, or you played that much, or?
Kinda.
Yeah. I just play through the game. I kind of prefer doing that at this point. But, I know a lot of people who can't replay Majora's Mask. Like, they don't like to just go back to square one and get everything all over again and stuff. Which is fine, but I find that really fun to, like, build yourself up.
Yep.
Yeah, it used to be that way with Pokemon, too. Like, do you remember, like, when you were a kid and, like, deleting a Pokemon file is, like, the most painful thing ever?
Good old America.
Good old America?
You'll just say everything's the most American thing ever, though.
American thing. I was just saying, like, I remember when I was a kid that deleting a Pokemon file was just, like, such a difficult thing. Because there's just, like, so much, like, memories in it. But, I can do it now, but I had to, like, learn how to be able to do it, because, it used to be difficult.
Oh, yeah.
Well, did you ever have that kind of thing where, like, you had your Pokemon file and you, like, really wanted to keep it?
Well, enough for me, no. I never actually did.
Oh, really? Well, for me, like...
That's more of an issue that's come up now for me.
Oh, really?
Yep.
For me, it was, like, really difficult when I was a kid. Now I just replay a lot of Pokemon games, you know, very, like, comfortably, so I'm like, oh, well, that's my last file. You know, gotta get rid of that, so I'm, like, more used to it. But, yeah. I would just have, a lot of my old files were just very long, like, hundreds of hours put into it, just because, you know, you just run around and do whatever you do in Pokemon. But, eventually you gotta replay it, so eventually you gotta kind of learn. You gotta learn to part ways. So, I got through that eventually. But,
Yep.
I still had a couple, like, Final Fantasy VI files that I was preserving, but then my cartridge messed up and deleted all my files somehow, so those are gone. So it'll be fresh next time I play that. You said you were gonna, like, play Final Fantasy V. I remember. Did you check that out?
I played a tiny bit of it.
Oh yeah. How was it?
I've enjoyed it so far.
Oh yeah. It's everyone's gonna have, like, a different experience with it, so, you know, I never really know what response I'm gonna get. Some people will tell me that, like, they hate it, or, you know, whatever, so. I love it a lot, but that's because I'm, like, very experienced with it. So it's a thing that, like, I wouldn't say it takes time, but it's a thing where it gets better, like, the more you know about it, I would say, because then you're gonna know more possibilities.
Oh, yeah, I will say, though, I'm definitely pretty goddamn clueless at the moment for it.
Well, how, like, far did you get? You just played, like, a little bit? into like the...
Not about an hour.
Okay, well, that means you like probably just got your first jobs then.
Yep, around there.
Okay. I'd say it's pretty smooth until you like get to the library. That's when people either start falling in love with it or it gets hard for them. But I always thought you might like it just because that game is all based around classes. So there's a lot of, when you talk about World of Warcraft stuff, a lot of the same, some of the same things.
Yeah, it's very much based on that, and I do enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'd say, I'd say keep playing it. Give more of a shot for it.
No, I was definitely gonna keep playing more. Ain't done yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe I should get some like emulators for some old school Final Fantasies and just like play through it on here or something. Could do that. There's like a lot I could show off in those games.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, actually, like there's some people doing more like Final Fantasy 2, specifically the 8-bit one. There are a lot of like new strategies that are kind of being figured out about it. It's just funny because the game's like ancient, but there's some new tricks that have been found, which aren't exactly like what I used back in the day. My stuff that I came up with is kind of old school at this point. There's some new tricks people have found, which I'm just impressed by because I wasn't expecting that at all. The new stuff would come out for that, but H.C. Bailey, there was so much new stuff that came out that H.C. Bailey actually just made a new playthrough just for that game, just to show it off. That's not common at all, so.
Oh yeah.
That's a game a lot of people also hate because it's really difficult for them to understand how it works, which I don't blame them. That's the game where everything you do in battle is what gives you your stats. So that means like getting hit gives you more HP. So some people really hate that. And some people just grind to death in that game and then it becomes easier after that point. But if a game is spent where basically almost all of it's grinding, then it's not really the funnest game. So,
no, not usually.
Yeah, for me, I prefer if you can. I prefer if you can beat a game without grinding. So you mostly just grind just because you want to yourself. That's how.
Generally, a huge mandatory grinding is painful.
Yeah, a lot of like NES games basically just force you to grind. And it's just not the funnest thing when you're like forced to do it. When you just decide to, just like, oh, well, I'm gonna just prepare a little bit so I can get this one move that I wouldn't have gotten otherwise, then that's pretty fun because you feel like you're kind of like ahead of the curve. But if it's like, well,
yep.
I'm at this point, so I'm gonna just do this forced grinding session, and then it's kind of.
I think the best example of a game that I love that forces you into grinding is definitely Pokemon Gold and Silver.
Yeah, because...
Like, the parts when you're not grinding that game, I adore, but man... Ooh.
Yeah.
It's a lot of grinding.
It is, yeah. Because... Well, the thing is... The problem with that is there's no good spot to grind. So... You feel the pain, you know? Like, if there's a good grinding trick in a game, then you're like, oh, I'll just do my grinding trick. And then it's like, yep, good. But that one, there's really no trick. I mean, I've been playing that game for so many years at this point. You just gotta fight wild Pokemon. That's all you can do.
It's a legit sit in Victory Road.
Nope. Sit in Victory Road, sit in Mount Silver.
Mount Silver, and then Mount Silver after.
Yep, that's what you gotta do. You know? And the only workaround I've found is if you want to just use a bunch of X items and power yourself up for the bosses. That works if you want to do everything at like level 50.
Once again, I freaking love Gold and Silver. I love every part of it except for when I'm grinding.
Yeah, and it's like, I think it's one of those things where it's like kind of like an overambitious thing where, you know, they made the final boss of that game. Like, they made him really worth it, really worth, you know, getting everything in that game, 16 badges, all that. Like, the ambition is really great. But man, he's just too over-leveled for that game because it's just too high-leveled. And you can do it at low level if you're skilled. But I'm just one of those people who likes to grind, even if like a little bit, you know? So, especially for me, because I usually like to do no feint runs, just because I find that like a fun challenge. So I'm grinding, and that one is just so bad to grind in. It's,
Especially doesn't help that half the areas that have the high level enemies you gotta grind on usually have that one low level evolution that is just chilling in the grass pool.
Yeah, it's like, well, in like Victory Road, I'm usually just wanting like Golbats and Rhyhorns is usually what I remember being the good ones. And then Ursaring, if you're playing the one that has that, that's good, but it's not that common.
Yep, Soul Silver.
Yeah.
Ursaring's very good if you have Soul Silver.
But, yeah, it's just... Well, the thing is, you do, like, Nuzlocke and whatever, so grinding is kind of even more
relevant,
yeah, more likely to happen. So, it's just... I don't know. And the remakes didn't fix it. You know, the remakes didn't fix it. It's like the only thing the remakes didn't fix, but they didn't. You know, it's still a problem, and they made it worse because they made the bosses even harder. Like, you go to Kanto, and depending on the gym you fight, you can be fighting a dude who's like level 56, whatever.
Yep.
Right off the bat, and it's like, you're probably going to be at like what? Like mid-40s? And yeah, it's like, it's hard. It's a hard world. So, no, like, yeah, it's
a very hard world, and once again, it still does not help that there's always like that first freaking evolution Pokemon in the pools of the grinding spots, especially Mount Silver. Mount Silver's really bad for that.
Yeah, like Mount Silver just doesn't have a very good lineup. Like, I think there's like Delibirds in Mount Silver.
Like for every good XP thing, like a Rapidash or an Ursaring, there's a Lavatar there that will show up at level 18.
Yeah, like that's another thing they could have done is like you look at Gen 1 and Cerulean Cave is like OP in terms of like the levels. Like it's crazy. You have like level 60 wild Pokemon there. why can't Mount Silver be that way? Mount Silver is supposed to be this like, oh well, it's so intimidating, the best place to train. It's crap to train compared to like Gen 1 Cerulean Cave. You know? Gen 1 I think even has higher level Pokemon in other places. So I don't get why. Like I honestly think it would be awesome if you went into Mount Silver and you're fighting like level 60 wild Pokemon. That would be awesome. That would be like a great way to tell like the player, hey, this place is scary, don't mess around. You know? But instead they're like level 40. You know? It's
Which is annoying as it is, I hate to say it. I've actually learned this from a custom ROM hack of Heart Gold Soul Silver. The best way to fix the leveling issue in that game is to just add more mandatory battles.
Well, yeah, I mean, that game probably has a rather small amount of trainers overall. I mean, like, Gen 3 and Gen 4 have a lot of optional trainers in them. Gen 2, like, you can't rematch trainers other than with the phone, and the phone sucks. Like, I don't know if there's some trick to the phone, but I just can't get it to work. I barely get any rematches out of it.
So, no, I'm gonna lie, to this day, I still don't get it either.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, maybe I should look up something that explains how it works, but it's like, you would think it should be simple enough, right? Like, I don't know, I phone the person and then they fight, right? Isn't that how it works? Well, no, I phone them.
No, but occasionally they'll just go like, hey buddy, how was it going?
Yeah.
Oh, did you know my Rattata is the top percentages of Rattata?
Yeah.
Anyways, see you later.
Yeah, and that's it. And you have like all these hikers who phone, and they're like, yeah, I was walking around and I saw this Geodude going up the slope, dude. Yeah, and I'm like, yeah, great to hear. Can I like fight you? You know?
No, see you later.
Yeah, it's like I don't know. I wonder if someone has made some kind of like phone chart at this point about the whole thing, like some walkthrough.
The truth, I don't even rematch you.
What's the thing? Like, in theory, everyone in the phone should be able to rematch you, but I usually only rematch like a handful of certain ones. You know?
Some of them can't even rematch you because some of them give you stuff like items when they call you back.
Yeah, like Jin.
Oh, my personal favorite trolleys. Hi, I'm Bugcatcher Wayne. I found some berries.
Something which grows on the trees every day.
I'll share them with you.
Yeah, well, from the ones I'm remembering, I can fight Youngster Joey. I can fight the hiker outside of like Slowpoke Well, and I can fight.
Yep.
I can fight the guy where the like snow passage is on that route. Those are the ones who I usually can rematch. Like usually every playthrough, I end up rematching them. And then there are others who I usually just don't at all. Is that like the same for you? Like, I don't know how it works.
I've battled some different people. I hate to say it, from what I've noticed though, is no female trainer will ever rematch you in the game unless it's a gym leader or an ace trainer, pretty much.
Yep, that's pretty much my experience. Yeah, I don't think I've ever rematched a female trainer.
Unless, yeah, it's a gym leader or an ace trainer.
Yeah, I think there's like a female ace trainer on like the Way to Victory Road, and I think I've rarely rematched that one, but I think that's the only one I've ever done. That's a female one. So, yeah, I don't know what it is. And Gen 3, they even have this thing where it's like, fight a guy 5 times, and then he'll give you, or you have to thief the held item he has in the battle. I'm like, that's so insanely out of the way because I never get 5 rematches with these people throughout the whole game. Like, I don't even know how you're supposed to do that. You know?
Like, is there a way? I don't know.
Yeah, because I actually tried to do it once, and I think I've done it once, which is the fighting guy who gives you the one item that improves fighting moves. I just phoned him a lot. Like, basically whenever I would turn the game on, I would just phone him. And then rarely I would get a rematch, and then I would go and fight that rematch. And at, like, the end of the game, I was able to fight him and actually thief the held item he had. So I was able to do it, like, once. But it's like, is that what they want you to do? Just recall these people over and over and over and over again? I mean, maybe. Maybe if you get into the habit of it, like, oh, I turned the game on, let me recall everyone. Maybe you would get it more often, but...
What are you supposed to do? Write on a piece of paper the trainers that will not rematch you no matter fucking what? Because there's quite a few of them.
Yeah, it's like, I wonder, to be honest, like, maybe I should look into it. Like, maybe someone has made a list of, like, the likelihood of them and all that. Because I know everyone shows, like, the teams they have. But it doesn't matter what the teams they have if you can't even fight them. So...
Because Bugcatcher Wade will never rebattle you. He'll just call you about, I got some orange berries!
Yeah, good luck for me remembering that one. So, I mean, even then, they grow on trees every day, buddy, so it's not that much of a journey on your part, but, I appreciate it at the least. But, I'm actually looking that up right now, because I need to know if there's something, if there's some trick after all these years. So let's look up, like...
maybe while you're there, you'll finally be able to learn how Voltorb Flip works.
That's another thing on the homework that I gotta learn sometime in my life, because I still don't get it. Pokemon Heart Gold, Soul Silver, Phone Guide, I guess? So if I can just... Because I want there to just be some, like, nerdy spreadsheet of, like, everyone, and it gives me, like, the likelihood for them to call back and everything they do. I want some nerd to have just figured out this whole thing. Oh, okay. Okay, Sarah B has something. Pokegear phone book. Pokegear guide by IGN. I'm gonna guess IGN's isn't that good. Okay, so Cerebee's pretty good usually. Like, Cerebee's where I learned the underground thing. Like, when I went over the weird, like, likelihood for things to be in the underground and how you get things and all that. So they might actually have something good on this one. So this is the Heart Gold Soul Silver one. So I'm gonna see how this is. Because I might finally learn the secret to actually get good rematches. Because, if I could set up a rematch for everyone in the game, just like, oh, let me go and set up these rematches and then go and fight them, then that would help grinding. I mean, maybe this problem can be solved. Okay.
Maybe, but I always hear people still complain about the grinding, so I have a feeling not.
Okay, the main feature of the Pokegear is the phone. The phone is used as you would think. It can call a variety of characters. If you have an appointment to rematch or pick up an item, the map will display an exclamation mark in the area when highlighted. Unlike in Gold and Silver, you don't have a limit to how many phone numbers you can register in the Pokegear, so you have the ability to get all the numbers. Yeah, I remember that happening in Gold and Silver. I maxed out my number. Although, sometimes I would play a game and get nobody's number, because I just wouldn't even ask them. Okay. So, there's certain times of day for the rematches, at least. Well, this is an alphabetical. So, Blaine is Tuesday afternoon, Blue is Sunday afternoon, Brock is Saturday night. Saturday night with Brock. Bugsy is Thursday afternoon. Buena Radio DJ. I didn't know they had a name.
Hello?
Chuck is Wednesday night. Well, I'm gonna. Is that. Oh, hey.
Hey there.
Now I'm just looking through Pokemon phone call stuff to see if we can manipulate something. Erica, Sunday morning, Faulkner, Saturday morning. Okay, so these are the gym leaders. What about normal characters? Gentleman Alfred is on Tuesday afternoon. Alright. Bug catcher Rob. Okay, so it's apparently at the specific time of day. So I guess that's why when you call them, nothing happens. Because you need to know the specific day of the week and time of day to call them. That must be why.
Oh, of course you do. It's that simple. Duh.
Yeah, I just needed to know that Picnicker Liz is only on Thursday afternoon. You know?
Duh, it was obvious.
Teacher Hillary Thursday night. Sailor Huey, I remembered that one for some reason. Wednesday night. Youngster Joey, everyone knows that one. School Kid Jack, Monday morning. So I think this is actually how it works. This is why you call them and then they never actually ask for a rematch, because it's only specific times of day. So I think it's meant that way so you can't get that many like rematches, but like the only way to manipulate this, as far as I can tell, is just like write down maybe these times of day and then be like, oh, okay, I'm on Saturday morning, so I'm gonna call the Saturday morning ones. That sucks. I think, yeah, like, that's how it works. I'm honestly more sad now that I know just how bad it actually is. At least before I didn't know the truth. I was just innocent.
Sometimes you Google and you're disappointed.
Yep. So, well, that's how the phone works. So I guess if I wanted to manipulate it, I can reference this list anytime that I want to just, I don't know, if it's like Thursday afternoon, then I can just call Fisherman Kyler and, oh, some of these aren't even rematches. Juggler Irwin calls for discussions. A lot of these are rematches, though. And Heart Gold Soul Silver, anyway. Almost all of these have rematches, apparently. It's just a very specific time of day. So I guess certain ones will call you more than other ones. I guess that's why I always end up rematching the same ones.
Yep. Hey, but don't worry, at least you'll still be able to hear about Joey and his amazing Rattata and how it's in the top percentages.
Yep, you'll still hear about that, even if you don't actually, like, rematch him.
It's so good!
Well, doesn't he also call about, like, so I was recently, fighting in the tall grass, and then this random Pidgey came out, but my Rattata was so awesome that I was able to take him out without difficulty.
Thank God!
Yeah, so... I'm looking for ones that don't have like a schedule on them, but it looks like it's all the NPCs. So Elm and Oak is just whatever. Oh. Random, okay. Black Belt Kenji is just random. He's not a specific day. Pokefan Derek just gives you a nugget. He doesn't fight. And Pokefan Beverly gives you a nugget. But those look like the only ones that aren't on a certain day schedule. So, they purposefully limited you That must be how it works. I couldn't just give Versus Seeker. Versus Seeker is so
You
beautiful.
may not grind.
No, like, part of the reason I've played Fire Red Leaf Green so much is just because grinding is so easy in that. Just Versus Seeker, fight the trainers. It's so easy. So sad. So sad. But, Well, Bub, I guess I could ask, what games have you played? I haven't really asked you before.
Well, I played a bunch of Toho games. I play a lot of, like, sports manager games and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I've played lots of Arma, Team Fortress 2. I have to look at my Steam library, to be honest. I can't remember everything. But I've played Terraria.
Mm-hmm.
Played some of the Total War games, Red Orchestra 2, Hearts of Iron, Grand Theft Auto.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How many of, like, the GTAs have you played? Have you played, like,
Sorry?
How many of the GTAs have you played?
I've played 4 and 5, 3, 4, 5, San Andreas, and Vice City.
Okay. That's, pretty much all the ones you need, I would say. So.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. My favorite one is still probably Vice City. Even after everything.
I like 4 the best.
Oh, yeah, 4. I understand that. Especially if you got to play it online back in the day. I never got to play it online, but I know a lot of people have.
Yeah, I played it online quite a bit. I played, I really like 5. It's just, like, I don't know, 5 with, like, their online is so, like, I don't know, it's just crap.
Yeah.
Because it's, like, pay to win, basically. But that's just Rockstar for you.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever done... There's this one glitch in Vice City. I'm not sure if you know about it, but it's like this glitch where you can, like, jump into and on top of this, like, mall and then, like, run around. And you can jump in this area and you would get into this, like, glitch world. I like to call it glitch limbo. But, it's... Have you ever done that? Have seen that?
Oh, it's been so long since I've played Vice City. It's like I played it like 8-9 years ago.
Oh, okay. Alright, but
yeah,
I think you had like a Mike's Game glitches about that one, but either way, I recommend looking it up because it's like a really insane glitch, and you'll be like running around the world like backwards, and you can be like walking on a beach, but it's like regular. It's like a street, and it's insane. So I can recommend looking it up because it's just really cool, and there's just a lot to explore out of that glitch.
Mm.
But yeah, I mostly played like the PS2 GTAs. I have mostly just watched the newer ones, but I like watching people stream them. Especially like GTA 5, if people like mess about with that. Ugh.
I don't. The only game I've been like really playing is like this MMA manager game. That's like the only game I've been playing recently. That's pretty much about it. Like I don't really play much other games that often anymore. Well, not right now, at least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I have like a lot of games I want to play, but it's just hard to get around to all of them. So.
Well, it's like, I don't know, just like there's like a certain point where you just kind of like stop playing like you just stop enjoying the games you enjoyed for the longest time, and you just kind of like stick to one game or no games or whatever, right?
Yeah. I think that does happen.
Like, because some of the games I've played and just like began to feel like a chore more than like actual enjoyment, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm. Well, for me, it's like part of the reason why a lot of times games I play a lot of tend to be short games, so I can beat it in like an hour or two. So anytime I'm just like got some kind of just brief moment where I just don't have anything to do, I'll usually either just replay a short game or just go on a walk. So, but yeah, it's like,
Yeah, I like games that don't really have a conceivable end. It's like open-ended games, like a game you can always like come back to and experience something a little different each time, you know?
yeah, that's really like refreshing, and that's something I like out of like map games, I would say, where they're you replay it and then you get a little bit of like a different scenario. That's
Yeah.
yeah. It's even partly why I like Shadow the Hedgehog, because that game just has like 300 different scenarios you can do. So even if people don't like the game, every time I play it a little bit differently. So it's just a little bit fresh every time. So that's part of the reason why it's a short game, so that's part of the reason why I've just replayed that game a lot.
Another interesting question: what's a game you've played with like the worst community? I already know the answer for mine. I'm just curious about your answer.
Worst community.
Yeah.
Zelda fans back in the day used to get on me just because of their wishy-washiness, but I like them more now because they're more chilled out. There's some ones that are so big they have like communities within themselves. Like Pokemon, I wouldn't really say has a community. It's like multiple communities that are kind of like separate.
Yeah.
Worst one. I mean, part of me wants to say like Sonic, but I also kind of like the Sonic community. I like it just because. Well, I've just met like a good. Like for me, it's really fun to like talk with like Sonic fan people in the right like context. So.
Yeah, like for me, it's like the it's specifically a part of the Hearts of Iron community. The New Order community, oh my god, man. Or Historical Geographical Overhaul, that's another really bad one.
Oh yeah, well, you have like different like mods and stuff like that have their own like thing going and their own Reddit, whatever they go on, you know, communities, communications kind of things on that.
Yeah, with Historical Geographical Overhaul, I was a part of that community for a little while, and oh my gosh, like it's really bad. Like the mod got deleted for whatever reason, and I'm not entirely sure why, but there's like some drama that happened, and they deleted the mod, and then like someone else put it back up, and then there was more drama, and it was like, what's the point of all this? And then like, I remember one time I went into the like the voice chat on their Discord server, where people are like arguing about like politics or whatever. It was very like surreal, but it's like it's just like a Hearts of Iron Discord, and people are arguing about whatever. Like, and some mod Discord too. Like,
Well, I'll say this, like, to me it makes perfect sense that a history game would get that, because it's hard for me to say for games, but for just like communities in general, the people who I end up, I mean, I don't want to say hate because it's a harsh word, but honestly, people who I end up not liking the most are oftentimes history people, funnily enough, because
yeah,
I find just so often so many of them are, well, actually, everything you say, like, they want to correct you and be like, well, this is actually the case, and like, they just want to like flex their knowledge or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, the thing is, it's like, oftentimes they aren't all that educated on what they say, so it's just, and that's the thing, it's like, if someone doesn't know that much about something, there's nothing wrong with that. But if someone's trying to like correct you about something and they assume you're dumb, I mean, I don't get mad at that, but it just kind of like bugs you, you know? So, yeah.
Like, this is like the thing, like, I was talking to somebody about like Japan and World War II, and they were like saying like you know, like that common like Twitter argument, like they shouldn't have dropped the nukes, blah blah blah, like, and they were like, what the Americans did to the Japanese was barbaric. Like, whenever people say that, I ask them, well, do you know what the Japanese did during World War II? Do you know what they did to their prisoners of war?
Yeah. I mean, you know, like,
in some cases, I would say they were worse than, some of the things they did were absolutely worse than what Nazi Germany did. Just look at the Nanjing massacre, or like literally any accounts of any survivors of like any Japanese like prison camp. Like, it's like, what the fuck? Like, and or like they literally, like, with the Inner Mongolian army there, they literally just like ravaged their way through like Western China or whatever. Well, Eastern China to us, I think. Beijing's like Eastern China, yeah, okay.
West of them, but east of us, yeah.
Yeah, west. Well, I'll just call it Eastern China. the area they patrolled was just like below Mongolia. It was like not around the Beijing area. It was near it, kind of, but like the area they patrolled was like around, like kind of like off to like the east of it was east of Beijing. And to this day, if you were to bring a flag of Manchukuo to that area of China, you would probably get beat the shit out of. Just because like they would like go into villages, kill a bunch of people, and take a bunch of stuff. Like they weren't really patrolling. It was more like a group of thugs. Like they were one of the worst supplied units of World War II. They were using bows and arrows, by the way. That's how badly they were supplied.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or just like look at anything they did in Manchuria or Korea for that matter, and it's just like, okay, like you're telling me they didn't deserve 2 nukes, like they weren't surrendering or anything, so it's just like you kind of got to push them to that point, right? Like
that's the thing, they say like the nukes are like barbaric. I don't really view it as like barbaric. Could you say it was like immoral? Well, yeah, because it killed people.
Yeah, like,
but like,
yeah, lots of civilians died.
That's the thing. Wouldn't
I
think
necessary evil.
And it's war, so you get what you get. You know, like barbaric is like attacking civilians, stealing from people, raping people, that kind of stuff. Stuff that
literally all what the Japanese did, like.
Yeah, so that's the thing, like, and again, they say it with a very, blasé, like, you know, oh, it was so evil for, like, the Americans to do that. Well, it's like, for me, it's sort of separate issues, like, well, America dropping the bomb on Japan was done for many reasons, and I don't really care about arguing whether it was like deserved or not. But the point is, if Japan, my point for this always is simply put, if Japan were in the same spot, they would have done the exact same thing, and they probably would have done it way more, you know, brutally than the Americans dropping the bomb was. The Americans could have dropped the bomb on Tokyo if they wanted. They could have murdered the Japanese royal family if they wanted, but they didn't. They dropped it on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. You know, it was up to them, and that's what they chose. If the Japanese had the choice to drop it on DC and, you know, kill the president, I do not doubt that they would, to be honest. So.
And a lot of people forget, the Japanese were trying to like spread the flag in America by sending those like weather balloons, but a bunch of them just got like blown back onto the Japanese mainland. And yeah, only 2 actually made it across the ocean.
Yeah,
but yeah, a lot of people forget that, and it's just very funny to me that the Japanese people forget the Japanese were trying to spread a plague in America, but I mean, whatever. In my opinion, I think that's 10 times worse than dropping a nuke, because that's prolonged suffering. A nuke is, well, it's one and done. It's over with after you drop it, right? I think prolonged suffering is worse than, like, suffering for maybe, like, 2 or 3 years.
Well, you had all the radiation sickness and all that, too, so. I mean, you know, it's like, that's the thing, like, it's not a guiltless thing. Like, dropping the A-bomb is not a guiltless thing, but it's not the most guilty thing compared to everything else that went on in World War II. It's just how I see it.
Absolutely. And it's just like, I don't know. I think the Japanese
like, we've had this discussion a million times. I think the Japanese were one of the most reckless armies in World War II. I think if they weren't super reckless and, like, I get they needed rubber, but if they weren't super reckless in attacking Western powers, like, look at the end of the war. They beat China literally at the end of the war when they didn't have, like, good supply, right?
That's...
And, like, I do think that the Japanese didn't attack France or Great Britain or whoever else. I think it would be a lot different right now.
Alright, I'm gonna go eat food. I'll be back. Maybe. I don't know. I'm hungry.
Okay, you can go eat. It's up to you. I'm just chilling here.
Yeah, but it's... I think it's very, you know... Yeah, that's just how I kind of feel about, like, the whole war in East Asia. It's I think the Japanese could have and should have kept it between them and China. The Chinese could literally not beat the Japanese because they were scared of using their American equipment against them. Like this was at the end of the war. They had a bunch of American equipment after they reestablished the supply line between them and India. America sent a bunch of equipment to them, and they still sucked.
Here's the thing. It's actually a good point that you brought up the offensives around like 1944 and whatnot, because they had this other offensive where they basically made a line through China to Indochina, and that was a well done offensive on the ground there, and that's while they were losing at sea horribly. Like, the Americans were in the Philippines and all this at the time.
Yeah.
The thing is, the problem is, like, what you define as beating China. Because in terms of, like, the population, in terms of the resources, I don't think Japan had enough to, like, garrison the entire country of China, but... That's
well, given their situation, they got themselves into, no. Because, like, eventually, like, even if it was just Japan and China, like say like they were like getting supplied by, like, kind of like in the Ukraine-Russia war, everyone's supplying Ukraine. I think you would have a similar situation where like, I still think Japan would beat them, but, like, say like the Japanese weren't losing at sea, they still had control of the, like, they're still building ships and whatever. It's just like I just cannot see the nationalists or the communist, like, governments, like, doing anything.
The thing is, China never even, like, retook the land from Japan. Like, the difference between, like, China and, like, the Russian front is that the Russians literally got pushed back all the way to, like, Moscow and Stalingrad, and then they pushed the Germans all the way back to Berlin. That did not happen in China at all.
Yeah, it's. I think at the Battle of Shanghai, it's like they were held up in this fucking warehouse for, like, ever. Like, I think it's like 88 days or something like that. It was a while that they were in that warehouse in Shanghai, right? And like, man, it just amazes me that the Chinese fight so valiantly in Shanghai. It just like they put up all this fight for like I don't know. I don't know what Chinese generals were doing. To be honest, it just baffles me because they kept doing the same thing over and over again. They would like spearhead and then pull their guys back and then try to flank the Japanese, but they would do this every single time. Like in almost every battle, they would like try to spearhead them and then they would try to flank them, and the Japanese just got wise to it. I don't know. And also the other reason why the Chinese had such high casualties is because they never had any properly trained medics.
Which isn't that much of a surprise. I mean, the thing is, like, the thing with China is, like, China had no modern army. Their equipment was, like, basically they were pretty much just infantry and like outdated artillery. That's like what they were. So
China has a history of being like that too, not just with the nationalist government.
So that's the thing. Like, I agree that I don't think China ever would be able to retake all their land from Japan. They never did anyway. Japan retreated. Japan surrendered and then they retreated from the land. So, like, to me it just looks like a stalemate. I don't think Japan ever would be able to, like, take out the interior regions of China. Definitely not Tibet and the Himalayas and all that. Like, you know, so essentially it's just a stalemate. Japan just took over, like, the rich coastal areas, and then they couldn't get further than that. So in that case, it's like, it's not really a win, it's just like, they're just there. So from the Japanese perspective, though, from the Japanese perspective, though, China didn't really matter after they already had all the rich land in China. There was no point in taking the rest of the Chinese countryside because it was all rural, undeveloped anyway. So their perspective was energy independence. This is the thing you see all the time in World War II. Japan and Germany wanted energy independence. For that, they needed oil. So they went to where the oil was, and then they ended up losing. That's how it went. So the problem is just, the more that I look at World War II and I look at just the alliances that are at play, the more I just think it's not really possible for the Axis countries to win. You know?
No. I mean, like, good luck like, even if, like, say for some reason, like, Germany, like, they get past Moscow. Again, we've had this discussion a million times. They get past Moscow, Stalingrad, and Leningrad. Well, you still have to deal with Stalin and his entire army. Good luck with that. Like,
still have to deal with Stalin. Yeah. And it's like, what, are you going to go through the Ural Mountains? The continent-wide mountain range? Yeah, no.
Yeah.
So.
Or like, say they get to Siberia. Good luck waging a war in Siberia. Like,
yeah, and it's like, well, the Germans, as far as I knew, drew this line. And the line was a little bit past Moscow. It was to Astrakhan. So it was, like, near to the Urals. So for the most part, they planned to, like, push them to the Urals. That's why most, like, World War II alt-hist people will do this thing where they'll have the Soviet Union continuing as this sort of, like, buffer state in Siberia that no one can invade. Which makes sense, because to be honest, Germany or Japan, they just can't invade Siberia. The geography is just, like, impossible for them to do it.
And then the other thing is, good luck outproducing America.
That's the other part. That's I think that's just the problem with it, is Russia is nearly impossible to defeat. You know, they did decent in our reality, especially in the first 2 months. They did pretty good, but, like, the problem with Russia is, like, where is the end point? You know, people are like, well, they'll just take Moscow. I don't think it would even matter. You know, same thing with Napoleon. Napoleon took Moscow. It didn't matter. They just burned it to the ground. They were so overextended. You know, people were starving and dying from disease, and they had nothing left, and then they counterattacked, and that was it. And Napoleon, you know, when you're that overextended, what do you even do? You know? So, the Germans were way overextended, and keep in mind, this isn't the German army that a lot of people think. Most of the stuff that the Germans did in Russia was done with infantry, and a lot of the supplies was just simply with horses. You know, they didn't have these, like, mechanic carriers going in. Oh, the boys on the jeeps bringing in all the stuff. No. You know? So...
And here's the other thing, like, their second best ally just lost a quarter of their mechanized divisions in Spain. And they're not ready to fight a world war. Like, that being Italy, like their best ally, like, their best ally is Italy, and they lost a quarter of their mechanized divisions in Spain. They're definitely not ready to fight a world war. Like, it's like, Germany was like Italy did do some good stuff in North Africa, but, like, I think they kind of fucked up when they delayed Barbarossa by 6 months. Like, I think
it was
waiting on that was...
It was by a month, not 6 months.
A month or whatever.
Yeah, it was like, that messed things up. I don't think it would have changed much myself. It may have, but the thing is, I honestly think the Italians at this point were a net negative, because you literally had half the Luftwaffe in the Mediterranean at any given time. And the Italians had so little oil, they literally couldn't even deploy their fleet. So, like, even though they had this navy, there never was any big Mediterranean naval battle. The Italians their fleet just sat in port and then eventually surrendered once they invaded Italy. And it's pathetic. It's honestly pathetic that the Allies invaded Italy that easily. It just shows you how, you know, weak they were. So, I honestly think if Italy didn't join, it honestly would help the Germans. Overall. Because
and, like, the other thing is, they were so proud of themselves for invading Albania and winning when Albania barely had an army. Like,
well, technically, they didn't really even invade Albania. They more of just, like, pressured the king into just, like, becoming a protectorate. Yeah, but Mussolini was like, hey, I invaded this country, blah, blah, blah. And then they go into Greece, fail. And yeah, they fought in North Africa, but they also failed in North Africa, so...
They did decently well in North Africa, though. They did achieve some success in North Africa. Now, that wasn't, like, prolonged success, but, like, they did actually do okay in North Africa for a little bit there.
Yeah, they did. Probably because their stuff is, like, tankettes and small light tanks, which is good for flat terrain. In Greece, though, they sucked.
No. And then that counteroffensive by the Greeks into southern Albania was like you get broken by the Greeks, like a already, like, suffering and, like, starving Greeks, like. Yeah. And then the funniest part was when they were fighting British Nigerian troops in Ethiopia. They literally spent the whole time retreating, and, like, I guess, like, the Nigerian troops literally spent day and night running, and they, like, went 900 kilometers in, like, 10 days. And and they were literally catching Italian troops off guard, like while they were like literally like waking up. The Nigerian troops would be in like their camp with no resistance. They would like take over cities because like the Italians were like not there wasn't like enough people defending it. Like they lost Ethiopia really fast to the British.
They did. They lost it mostly in like 2 to 3 months, I think. So, okay, well, I have a couple questions here from my chat. So, Diego Rego, do you like top 10s? Yeah. And could you enjoy / watch a sort of pseudo-history video to understand another one's mindset? It's actually not a bad idea, as like I react to like pseudo-history, alt-history. That's actually not a bad idea. What do I know about the coast disturbances of 1947? I sadly don't know that. I know Khost is a city in Afghanistan, but that's all I know. Do you think Vichy France would have helped more the Axis in a way? Okay, but you can go on. Bub, you can go on. So.
The coast disturbances were like an Afghan tribal revolt.
Okay. Well, I'll have to get that down again.
And,
it's not a revolt on my list.
But Vichy France, didn't they do some fighting in North Africa?
Only when the Americans came in, because part of the deal was that Vichy France wouldn't actually fight. They were supposed to be like neutral. They were technically supposed to be neutral, so they didn't actually fight very much. But basically, like, do I think Vichy France was a net positive or not? I mean, Vichy France, funny thing about it is it kept land from Italy. Like, Italy wanted Savoy and Corsica and all this stuff, and Vichy France got to keep it. Honestly, I think Vichy France wasn't all that great because they didn't even fight for the Germans. They barely did. I think the point of Vichy France was, it was mostly to handle like France's colonies, and in that sense, it actually worked because almost all of France's colonies sided with Vichy France. Only a couple actually like remained with the Allies. So in that sense, it wasn't that bad, and they used some of France's colonies for submarine attacks, but I would say in terms of like the land side of it, wasn't really that good in my opinion, but it's mixed. And Hitler ended up like just annexing Vichy France once the Allies took North Africa. So he got rid of it once he needed to get rid of it, so. Who is your favorite secret police / severe law enforcement group? NKVD, N16, the guys Ivan the Terrible had that I forgot the name of. Favorite law enforcement? Well, there were secret police even in like the 1800s. During like Napoleon's time, there were like agents in Paris and stuff. Favorite secret police?
The ones that glow in the dark.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, it's kind of like a... I like Stalin's boys just because of how Stalin used them. And that would be like NKVD, I guess. Gestapo was alright. I don't know, it's weird to compare, like, which one was more effective? China today probably is doing the best, I would say, from what I've seen. We're talking about just most effective.
Bro, glory to the People's Republic of China.
Yeah. FBI would be counted as a part of that, but I don't think FDI would be like one of my preferred ones either way. But would you do top 10 videos? Maybe. I have a couple top 10 videos in mind, so I might do it. The only problem is just figuring out a way for me to do it. Because, I mean, most of my videos, I mean, it's mostly just like me talking. So doing a top 10 would be kind of like, I don't know. I gotta figure out some way to do it, but I do have a couple ideas for that. Which is your favorite Axis army in the Eastern Front, or at least the whole war? The 2nd Großdeutschen Army, the 2nd Hungarian Army, the 6th Army, the 11th Army, have any? I mean, the Finnish, I kind of like the Finnish. I like the Mongolian cavalry.
Yes, that one is my favorite. The Mongolian cavalry units. Literally the most effective cavalry units there was, even though they didn't really have a good sample size, but you know. Though most of them did get wiped out at the Khalkhin though, so.
Yeah, that was like mostly what Mongolia contributed to World War II, just sending cavalry to the Soviet Union for aid in that. They contributed more horses than they did men, befitting of them. So, I mean, this is armies, so not navies. I do like the British in Egypt. I mean, there's some cool Australian stuff, like the 8-month siege of Tobruk that the Australians held out on. That's a cool one. But like main German ones, I mean, 6th Army is, you know, 6th Army is what it is. I mean, the 6th Army lost at the end of the day. 2nd Hungarian Army. I mean, you know, the Hungarians did alright. I mean, the Romanians did pretty good. You know who? Actually, I'll say this. You want to know who Germany's greatest ally actually was? Romania.
Romania.
Not the Italians. Romania. Yeah.
Romania was like ride or die with the Germans. Like. Like they did a lot. They actually did win battles.
In fact, actually, well, the Romanians. Here's the thing: when you talk about the 6th Army, you want to know the army on the flank of the 6th Army, that in the north, that was preventing, them from being outflanked initially. The Romanians. And they held out throughout the whole siege of Stalingrad for, 6 months or whatever? Who was in the north? Who was the one on the front taking the blows? The Romanians. Not these Italians. The Italians were there, but they were more north and not relevant. So.
And then the Italians got fucking wiped out at Stalingrad. Like, I don't think. Almost none of them survived. They sent 105,000 men, from what I remember, and 2,000 came out alive. Some crazy shit like that.
Okay. Do you appreciate the Steel Division games? I think I may have seen those a little bit, but I never played them. And Revolution Under Siege. I don't think I've heard of that one. I don't like any, but the NKVD really did a good job of boosting the morale of troops, of the peasants and workers, Soviet Red Army, and infiltrating other countries, including the Manhattan Project. That's actually a really good point, actually. NKVD/KGB hijacking the atom bomb. That's honestly probably the best spy work that's ever been done, to be honest. That's that's actually a really good point. And assassinating Trotsky in Mexico and stuff like that. You know, Stalin purged. Stalin literally got rid of everyone. From the original Soviet revolutionaries. So honestly, I think with all these like global scale achievements, I think we probably have to give it to the NKVD. If we're looking at just like achievements, like global politics and stuff, and doing top 10s about video games, yeah, that would be probably what I would mainly do it on. I could do top 10s about a lot of things though. Wait, are you Aussie? No, I'm Canadian. I'm not Aussie. I like Aussies though. Forgive me, I'm not Australian, but I am a fan of the land down under. Certainly like them, but the most self-sufficient, co-belligerent the Third Reich had were the Finnish, but although the Romanians were bold tactically, the High Command was coward since.
I have something to say to that. The Finnish did not advance past the Karelia. They did not want the help with Leningrad.
No, they didn't. And they
weren't a big proprietor in Barbarossa, unlike the Romanians, who were like there for however long, right? Like,
since they wanted to join the Soviets way before Mikhail III died in 1944. He's talking about how there was Romanian sympathies for the USSR, which is why they surrendered.
But there was Finnish sympathies for the Soviet Union as well. There were like Finnish people, like there was the whole Finnish, like what is it called? The Finnish like Workers' People's Republic or sort of Democratic People's Republic or whatever. Like, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
There was sympathies on both, like, in both countries, but the Finns, yeah, they did great where they were. It's just like they didn't really help Nazi Germany as much outside of like Northern Europe, like.
Well, it's like Leningrad is kind of like a big thing on that one, because even though I don't even think, I mean, it was possible they could take Leningrad. I personally don't think it even would have mattered, because that's not where the oil is, but the Finns did not help on that. And Leningrad was literally surrounded by like all three sides, and they still didn't take it. So.
Well, and the other thing is the Finns did not attack the supply line the one supply line going into Leningrad. It was literally just German Luftwaffe.
Well, the Finnish didn't have a big obligation nor loyalty to the Axis in the war, but they did the same pro-gamer move Italy and Romania did. Oh, that's the surrender, fight with the Germans, but the moment the Allies come in, surrender immediately. Yeah, that is the sly.
Well,
yeah.
Well, like the thing is, the Finns they were kind of forced to join the Axis because the Allies were attacking them, and I don't think it's like fair to say that they had loyalty to Germany because I think the only reason they really sided with Germany was out of necessity, not because they necessarily liked Germany.
Yeah, they just did what they had to do. That's what most of those countries did. Like Hungary, Romania, Finland. The thing with Finland is they basically did all the same stuff, it's just that they never signed the Pact of Steel. So they like to act like that makes them a lot more innocent, which it doesn't really. But it was yeah, it's like, well, all of those countries did the pro-gamer move of surrender the moment the Allies showed up. Which I do like. Romania also did a pro-gamer move in World War I, which is the fact that they declared war. They redeclared war, literally, the day before the Treaty of Versailles was signed. Well, I should say before the armistice. So the moment like the armistice was signed, they redeclared war, so they could go in and like eat up Austro-Hungarian lands. Which, you know, so these Romanians, they know how to start and end wars. Well, they know how to end wars. They don't know how to start wars. In the case of World War One, because in World War One they came in late for the Brusilov offensive, but you know. The Finnish translated a lot of paper and political works the North Koreans did for their version of communism. Finland always had a strong leftist community. I think I've heard of that, yeah. Well, Finland at the time was one of the only, gateways to the rest of the world for communist countries at that time. Because it wasn't exactly Western, but it wasn't exactly Eastern in terms of their foreign policy. So. The German army in World War II should we call in my book as Großdeutschen here and Libya in the Italian colonial times as Africa Settentrional. Okay. I don't know German or Italian. I know Großdeutsch just means like large German. So. Although the colonial legacy in Libya is kind of surprising, to be honest, because there's quite the legacy there, even though the Italians didn't actually control Libya for that long when you think about it. Only like 30 or 40 years, but I think like 10% of the people there still speak Italian and stuff, so it's actually kind of impressive.
Shout out Muammar Gaddafi.
Yeah. Shout out to him. Yeah. Keeping order in an orderless place. So.
Yeah.
I mean, think of that. Libya was going all good throughout the whole Arab Spring. You know, they're doing all good. In fact, they're doing great. And, you know, Libya, most literate country in Africa. You know, one of the highest GDP per capita, all that. And, well, not the case anymore. So. Nah, I can't help but respect Gaddafi. I don't even care. I know there's all these people who hate him still. I honestly respect the dude. I think he was just a net positive, so. Now, there are a lot of boomers who just say that basically if anyone is a dictator, then they're just automatically bad. And I just don't agree. What do you think of Saddam Hussein, though? Do you think Saddam Hussein was...
I have very mixed feelings on him, because Saddam, he kept order to Iraq, and, but he also gassed the Kurds, and, did, fucked up shit to, his people, and let his son go wild on Iraq. It's,
Yeah, it's like, some parts of it I kind of liked, for example, funnily enough, he wasn't that much of, an Arab nationalism guy, even though a lot of people would think he was. He was Arab, but, he brought back, for example, Babylonian monuments and stuff like that and put that in like museums and stuff, which I like really respected because like Muslims have traditionally looked down on a lot of that history. So I kind of respected that he wanted to look at Iraq as that having like a part in their history, because that's like thousands of years of ancient history and ancient cultures that really no one talks about now. So I kind of like respected that. I mean, he like, militarized Iraq, and he invaded Kuwait. He did lose. I hear people like fear mongering now that people are like, well, if Saddam took Kuwait, he was going to invade Saudi Arabia next. And I'm like, nah, I don't see that. I think that's way, like, even if he wanted to, like, his army just would not be on that level. He wanted Kuwait so he could actually have a decent port for his country. And Iraq has claimed Kuwait for a long time. So that's nothing new.
But like at the same time, I don't agree with him invading Kuwait. I don't think that should have started an entire like war. But like, I think he was overstepping his bounds when he invaded Kuwait.
Well, he also invaded Iran too, so it's like, to a certain extent, I kind of think he deserved what was coming to him. Like Gaddafi didn't start any war, People.
No, he was just trying to like start Africa's own central bank, and then magically the Americans are suddenly interested in Libya.
Saddam Hussein, what happened with him was something that was building up for like decades, to be honest, because he invaded Iran, he annexed Kuwait, and he was beaten back for that. So it's like, the Iraq War in 2003, the full-on invasion of Iraq, I don't think was justified. But the Gulf War, I think, was justified. Okay, well, we have some more comments. Italian, North Africa for translation. Okay, so Africa, Satan Tranao. I obviously can't pronounce it, but that's Italian from North Africa. Well, okay. Here is Army. Yeah, I remember that for the most part. The only country to have a dynasty without Germanic bloodline was Serbia. Of like the
aren't Serbians aren't Serb? Wait, hold on a second.
Well, he said dynasty. He said dynasty. So.
Oh, okay. Aren't Serbians like Illyric or whatever, or Turkish/Illyric or whatever? A lot of people in the Balkans like to say they're Illyric.
Well, Illyrian. They are like the natives of that place during the Romans. They're partly Illyrian now, distantly, but they are, Slavic. So there's like most of those ancient groups don't exist now, but they have some legacy. Like the Gauls. Like there's genetic legacy of Gallic in France, but France now is mostly, in the north, mostly Germanic. They come from the Franks. And then in the south, mostly Mediterranean. So, in terms of like the Illyrians, like, the best kind of legacy we have for them sort of is like Albanians. In terms of like pure Illyrian, although the Albanians themselves are also unique.
People not exactly sure what Albanians even are, like.
Yeah, we aren't exactly sure what they are. The term originated around the 1200s, but whether or not they're Illyrian or not is... It's hard to say. The point is they seem to be among one of those ancient groups, but they're definitely kind of diverted. They're not like a purely of that. Kind of like the Basques. Like the Basques mostly are what they have been forever, but they're not exactly the same as they were during Roman times. So
you know what since Albania is like the strongest country in the world, you cannot defeat Albania. They're stronger than those gay Bosnians and Serbians and
They're true
Croatians
Muslims,
and
unlike those Bosnians.
yeah, those 5'9" Bosnians.
Mhm.
While the 6'5" Albanian comes along and beats them up or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, but either way, he said the only country without a Germanic bloodline was Serbia. If we're talking like 19th, 20th century Balkans, then that should be correct. Hungary was technically a regency under a Hungarian, but they had no king, so let's not count that. Romania was German. Bulgaria was German. Greece was German. Serbia was not. And then Yugoslavia was just the royal family of Serbia. So that is true, at least in the 20th century example. In conclusion, Baathism was a great idea, but it was bastardized by both right-leaning Sunnis like Hussein and left-leaning like the Assad faction who likes the Persians. Another conclusion, Saddam was kind of a tyrant, but the world wanted him at that position for a while, like attacking the young Islamic Republic of Iran, but was later betrayed by the world themselves. I personally don't see Albanians as Illyrian. Well, Baathism is like the Arab socialism, and honestly, I agree that it honestly was a net positive, mainly because it's the main thing that kept these Islamic countries from civil war for a long time, is these like Baathist socialists. Iraq and Syria were under that. Syria is still under that. But then he says Hussein and Assad kind of like ruined it. Well, Assad is basically like a dynasty. Like his like family has been running the Ba'ath Party in Syria for that whole time. Hussein mostly kind of the same. So I don't think you can really like separate Hussein and Assad from Baathism. That's just what it is. But the whole point is they kept more order overall than this insane civil war situation the Middle East has been in without them. So I honestly don't mind them. My position on South America is the same. If you need socialism to have order, then I'll take socialism. I don't really care. But
hey, a buddy of mine is going to be doing a watch party for something soon, so I might have to dip out soon.
That's fine. I'm still working on this, but
and I'm going to be right back. 1 second.
Okay. Yeah, but as for Albanians as Illyrian, I don't see them as Illyrian either. I see them, I mean, they're in the land of roughly like Epirus, traditionally of that Greek kingdom. So, there was also the Thracians. I don't see them as Thracian. I don't see them as Illyrian. Because Illyrian also primarily was Dalmatia. So, the Albanians, I see, if they're to be descendant from anything, they're roughly descendant from Epirus, which was Greek, but they also aren't Greek. So, they, for the most part, are kind of the leftovers of the non-Slavicized Balkans. That's what I would describe them as. But Albanians are just very unique overall. Their language is completely unique, and ethnically they seem to be basically unique as well. So they kind of seem to be kind of just kind of an anomaly. But Saddam was kind of a tyrant, but the world wanted him at that position, but was later betrayed by the world. Yeah, like to be honest, he attacked Iran. Iran, when their republic was new, and most people were very much against the new Islamic Republic of Iran at the time. So some people backed Saddam in that case. And overall, I think actually his invasion of Iran wasn't all that bad. So I can understand backing him on that basis. I honestly think he put Iraq in a much better position overall. I think he benefited Iraq, but he was too aggressive overall, in my opinion. I think Francoist Spain sell the weapons to the Arab republics during the Cold War, as the USSR also did, but I'm not sure. Well, the Americans sold weapons to the Arab countries as well. A lot of the Arab countries at the time were socialist, so they leaned towards the USSR. The thing is, though, if Spain did sell weapons to them, Spain at that time sucked, to be honest. Spain was not a strong country.
Hey, Spaghetti?
Yeah.
I'm gonna dip out here.
Okay.
So, see ya.
Yeah, alright. See ya. Okay, so, because I've been doing this for a while, let's get all our fixes done, and then I'll set myself up for next time. I think the balance of power of the Middle East before the 2003 invasion was better. Yeah, I agree. Because the thing is that not a lot of people even mention now, because people have forgotten about it, is that Iraq was basically kind of like a strong buffer state. Iraq now is not a buffer state at all. Iraq now is basically like a sham, weak country. And it's reliant on other powers, which is something that Arabs are really mad about, because Iraq used to be a formidable military power, and now Iraq is basically like half of their oil is owned by China, and only recently were they not even protected by America. And to be honest, these people who fearmonger about Turkish expansion, I mean, it would have been the Americans who caused that ability for the Turks to expand, because the Americans are the ones who crushed Iraq. They're the ones who crushed Libya. They aren't exactly the ones who crushed Syria completely, but by invading Iraq, it definitely destabilized Syria, brought on ISIS, which led to the whole thing happening. I mean, you know, if the Turks become dominant in the Middle East, which I'm not exactly sure if they will, but if they do, the Americans will be the ones to blame, to be honest. So, yeah, honestly, Iraq, it was better to have Iraq there than it is now. So. Okay. Delete 90,000. We will get up to here and save this. And we're getting pretty close. It is funny that in early 2000s, the freedom-loving Americans thought helping the Kurds was good, and many believed the pseudo-history of Kurds being in that territory since 4000 BC and other BS. Since 4000 BC. 4000 BC is definitely wrong, because the Kurds are Iranian. The Iranians didn't get in there until like Neo-Babylonian times. So that's definitely wrong. But no, it's true. Yeah, there's a lot of there's a lot of people who don't understand ancient Middle East. In fact, I think ancient Middle East is something that's so critical to understand. It's something that's funny to me because so many Americans love the Bible. And the Bible is set all throughout that time. Neo-Babylonian Empire, Assyrian Empire, I mean, they're even in the Bible. And yet, so many people know nothing about that time, you know? That's the thing that it's really important to learn about that time. I mean, it's the foundation of all cultures, like all Western cultures in a sense originate from that Middle Eastern point. I mean, Greeks, come from that, but the Greeks, you needed trade with Egypt, you needed trade with all that, so either way. Do you see a timeline in which the Achaemenids reached the Italian peninsula and even Rome? You can skip the details in that scenario if that happens. Overall, no. I don't see it as very likely. If they conquered Greece, which they almost conquered Greece twice, but they failed. Part of the reason I don't really see the Achaemenids conquering Italy is mainly because plenty of other areas could not. Because Italy's very mountainous. The whole Balkans is in general, but Carthage couldn't. The Greek cities separately couldn't. They colonized areas off the coast. Alexander the Great couldn't. I mean, if Alexander the Great was still around, he may actually have invaded Italy, and he may actually have been able to do it. I think Alexander the Great maybe was the only one who could have done it. The main reason why I don't see the Achaemenids conquering all of Italy is because they were a lot less centralized of a state as people think. Each of the satrapies had a lot of autonomy. They were treated almost kind of as their own countries in a symbolic way. But the Achaemenids were a lot less centralized than the Assyrians and Babylonians were, which is part of the reason why they were more prosperous, in my opinion. They were a lot more liberal and decentralized to a lot of other religious groups, things like that. But you also see that the Achaemenids didn't really invade that many places. Most of the places, they invaded big empires. They took out the Babylonian Empire, they took out Egypt, they took out Lydia. But in conventional warfare, they were able to take out established civilizations, but they didn't, other than to the Aral Sea and parts of India, they didn't actually really, they weren't good at conquering less urbanized states. As we see in Greece, they couldn't conquer Greece. They never conquered further into India. So, if you're asking me in terms of the likeliness, timeline of them conquering Italy, I just don't see it. I think Alexander the Great may have been able to do it, but I think that's the only one. Because Carthage was too focused on naval stuff, and the Achaemenids just weren't good at conquering non-urban states, from what I can see. It is interesting, though. It's an interesting proposition. Maybe if the Achaemenid Empire remained and Alexander the Great never existed, like if they conquered Greece, then maybe. It's more possible in that case, but that's a completely different timeline, because that's probably like not even the Achaemenid Empire, but some kind of splintered off Western Mediterranean Empire that may be Persian in culture, but either way. Anyway, that's really nerdy, but, if that answers your question. The Middle Ages are hella underrated as F. Yeah, absolutely. Middle Ages are ridiculously interesting and ridiculously complex, and I think that's why most people don't get into them. Even now, I'm learning so much about Middle Ages, all that stuff, that I don't learn about other ages. So much to dive into, so much stuff, so much exploration. I mean, in terms of, feudal politics at that time. Just incredibly interesting. I love that stuff. It's very compelling. So, I agree on that point. I don't know. It is also funny that many, mostly Zionist Americans, see the Achaemenids as evil, even when they were arguably less evil than Romans or Babylonians or even Greeks. I probably can agree, honestly, because of any of the big empires at that time, the place that genocided the least, the place that maintained ethnic groups as they were, Rome did put in some anti-slavery legislation, but the Achaemenid Empire was one of the first countries that ever had anti-slavery legislation. Yeah, honestly, the Achaemenid Empire, I probably agree with you, actually, yeah. Less evil than the Assyrians or the Babylonians, definitely. I can agree with that. Less evil than the Romans or Greeks? Probably, honestly, because, the Romans, honestly, were less anti-slavery than the Achaemenids were. The Romans were, you might argue the Romans were more tolerant of different religious groups in the beginning, because the Achaemenids did spread Zoroastrianism, but at the end of the day, the Romans, when they became Christian, were very intolerant of other religions by that point. And the Romans definitely genocided way more people. And another thing to keep in mind with this is that the Achaemenids controlled a larger population, or a percentage of the population, than people think at the time. In terms of percentage of population of the world, the state which controlled the most at any given time was the Achaemenid Empire. Roughly 43%, if not more, of all humans lived in the Achaemenid Empire, which is more than any country has ever been able to claim. And it's insane when you think about it. So a country with that many people and not being all that mean to their own people, other than during rebellions, is honestly pretty respectable. So yeah, the Achaemenid Empire, I do respect it a lot, to be honest. And yeah, you're right that a lot of Americans see the Persian Empire as all evil and this and that, and I do agree that it's misplaced. What is the region of Morocco that you are most interested in studying? Well, it depends on whether you count it as Morocco or not. To be honest, I really like looking at, like, Ceuta and Tangier. Well, Tangier definitely is Moroccan. But the history of those places in particular, because they're right on the Strait of Gibraltar. So there were a lot of invasions of, like, the Emirate of Granada invading Morocco. And I just find that area very interesting, Tangier and that northern area of Morocco. Also, the Middle Ages wasn't nearly as hellish as people think. Definitely. The early Middle Ages, literacy declined dramatically. Rome had possibly a 10% literacy rate, and that declined, and we didn't get back to that until, like, maybe not even the 1600s, but, yeah, like, the Middle Ages definitely are unfairly thought of as, like, peasant, dirty crap, all this and that. And yeah, it's like in certain ways, Rome had things better than the Middle Ages, but I would say in terms of economic, the Middle Ages was much better in terms of economy than the Roman Empire, mainly because of guilds and personal relations between the royal families, things like that. And the intellectual culture was very interesting. The way they analyzed the past was very interesting. I mean, it was a very religious time, so there was a lot of religion intertwined with intellectualism, but that's interesting in its own right. And yeah, like, Middle Ages is awesome. Middle Ages is really cool. And to be honest, my favorite period to study is colonial times, but a period that always keeps coming back in terms of stuff to look at is the Middle Ages. Just an incredibly interesting, incredibly varied time. So much interesting stuff at that time. So yeah, a very great time. Oh, I missed. Or did I? Yeah, I did mess up. Oh, okay, we're coming close. Zoom in there. Zoom in there. I always had the suspicion that the Achaemenids had a plan to homogenize the Central Asian culture, likely in a bad light, but in a better way than other empires had, for instance. Well, Central Asia, that's like the steppe. Well, the thing is, like, that region that they know as Sogdia, the Sogdians, that area ended up getting kind of homogenized anyway, under Persian culture. And, they mostly spoke Persian for a long time. The Tajiks still have a legacy from that, and even Afghanistan. So they spread the Persian language and the Persian culture. They had they were as far as the Aral Sea in terms of their holdings. So, I mean, the thing is, it's kind of like how the Greeks spread the Greek language across the Middle East after Alexander the Great conquered the place. They didn't eliminate the native language, it's just that their own language became the language of business among educated people there. So, again, overall, it's like, yeah, definitely you could call out the Persians Persianizing places, but it wasn't as bad as other people did, wasn't nearly as brutal, and wasn't nearly as rampant. Because Rome Latinized many places and many peoples overall. So, but setting that aside, there weren't any big evil like that, remembering that Darius apparently died in Central Asia in a battle, according to one source. Well, yeah, they had holdings in Central Asia, and, the Sogdians carried on that, and they would continue to until the Arabs came in, and the Turks came in. Now that area is mostly Turkic, and they traditionally used the Arabic alphabet, although a lot of them use Latin now. The Middle Ages had a lot of Renaissance, like the way Europe changed after the First Crusade, and Golden Ages of many countries in Europe, like the Bulgarian or Frankish empires. Yeah, Bulgaria, at the time, definitely peaked. Bulgaria was doing really good. To the sadness of the Romans at the time. And the Franks, yeah, I mean, the Franks, Charlemagne is one of the greatest. I think Charlemagne is one of the greatest statesmen and, conquerors really in history. Very much worth being celebrated. He created the feudal order. He created feudalism, and he created all the benefits of feudalism, because a lot of people think feudalism is just bad, but feudalism, in my opinion, brought a good order back to Europe, where beforehand you had barbarian kingdoms, which the barbarians are given a bad name too, but you had these barbarian kingdoms. Charlemagne conquered them, and eventually they localized into a lot of these feudal realms and domains, which overall had a lot of the feudalization of it in terms of all these small realms that existed. I think they minimized conflict compared to big empires that went around a lot. And as I said, I think guilds and I think the kind of mercantilism that came in during that age, I think was better than Roman times. So you had a lot of benefit from it, and that came from Charlemagne and all that. Golden Ages that improved a lot of things in Europe that people often overlook a lot. Yeah, that's, exactly the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. So. Okay, let's go to... Okay, we don't even have 80,000. But I want to go just to... Wait a second. Oh, we don't have 75,000. That's not good. My source is History Buff's take on the historical accuracy of the Kingdom of Heaven movie. Also had the golden ages of some smaller Europeans like Bohemians, Bosnians, Lithuania, etc. Yeah, I mean, Lithuania definitely had its height in that time. Yeah, you had Bosnia competing up with the whole Serbs and the Venetians and all that. And Bohemians, definitely. I mean, Bohemia was a premier country at that time. So, yeah, it's all interesting to see. It's a great time. I mean, that's why I love every part of history, you know. There isn't any part of history that I don't look into, but yeah, History Buff, Kingdom of Heaven, I did see that. That was the one where it, like, displayed... They used a lot of, like, gray colors, and it really tried to make everyone look poor and all that, if I remember right. There's also that one other movie about Rome, that was... It was all about, like, Christianity, when it first came in and all that. So you had all that. Yeah, but History Buffs is really good, honestly. It's not, like, perfect, but History Buffs is really good. Because he geeks out when he should and gives the credit where he should. There are some things where I think History Buffs... He's not good all the time. Like, I thought, like... This is going to sound a certain way, but the way he talked about 1492... my problem with it wasn't the fact that he pointed out all the things Columbus did. My problem was the fact that I think he got too moral about it. You know? Like, he got too moralizing about it. Like, he flat out just called Columbus, like, evil, one of the worst persons ever. Which, you know, you need some people to give those kinds of takes on occasion. Because there even was a guy who, I don't remember his name, but he became a priest after witnessing Columbus because he was just horrified at what Columbus had done. So there are people who need to give those takes, but I did think that for someone who didn't know, it could give a little bit of a, maybe not a biased impression, but a little bit just too kind of emotionally charged impression, you know? But, you know, as I've said, sometimes you need to go there, right? Okay. Well, the Central Asians sure didn't speak Persian per se. Remember, this was the time of the Medes, Arcosians, Parthians, Dragonians, Sagratians, Bactrians, Albanians, and more Japhetic tribes. Well, of course, when we say Persian, we're specifically talking about Persis, which is the essentially tribe in the very south. They were beneath the Medes, south of the Medes, and they conquered the lands of the Medes, and conquered Babylon and all of this. So, I mean, it's true that when you say they weren't speaking Persian, Persian was a continuum. Persian wasn't just one. It was a group of languages essentially. The courts would have spoken what we call Persian from Persis, but the Achaemenids didn't even call themselves Persians, and neither do modern Iranians, right? So when I say they're speaking Persian, they're from a group that I'm more referring to. Even Greek was like that back then. You had like Sicilian Greek, well, Syracusan, right? And the Italiote Greek and all of that. You had variants, so it wasn't all just one blanket thing. But and the Parsi, Persian allied Aryan tribe near the Elamites that inherited the Median Empire was just one single tribe from the rest. Yeah, no, that's what I said. So, yeah, no, you're right though. I mean, also, I am the guy you talk with in Discord. The guy who was called, like, I just made a Discord account, or that one. Well, if that's the case, good to see you. Good to see you here. I like that, you've been watching this and enjoying it, I presume, so. Oh, looks like my kilobytes are going down, so this thing's probably lagging. Means I probably should end it pretty soon. Okay, let's speed run this now. Let's get this done. Well, the region of Morocco I like to read more is the Western Rif, Woomera, Pays Jala, and the coastline the Alboran Sea, and that land of the Rif's mountains, and have curiosity over Olubi. So you like the Rif. Well, the Rif is mostly like the northern area as well. I mean, you have the Republic of the Rif. So the Carthaginians didn't do much things in modern Morocco. The Romans too, but built Volubilis at least. Yeah, that's true. I mean, the Carthaginians were in. The Carthaginians had what's now Ceuta, that northern coast area. But yeah, Carthaginians mostly were Tunisia and some of the Algerian coast, but Carthaginians mostly just inherited former Phoenician colonies. They didn't actually build as much cities as the Phoenicians previously did. Alright. So now we're going to check these. I want to make sure that Socotra and the Cape Verde is covered. Oh. This is weird. Okay, so the thin borders actually affects it, right? That's the difference, right? Yeah, thinner borders. The thinner borders is the thing that makes the difference. Well, I didn't know that actually affected borderless. you can see more of the coast with thinner. Whereas yeah, okay. So I definitely I'm gonna have to fix that. I want the thinner borders on the previous ones. That kind of sucks, but that's how it goes. I think the reason the Phoenician/Carthaginian civilization lost hegemony is that they were simply outnumbered. I agree. I agree. I don't think there's any way they could have beaten the Romans. They tried, but militarily, I mean, Hannibal was great tactically. All of that, but yeah, I don't believe they could have survived either. But anyway, so this will be the end of this. Looks like I got another thing I have to fix, which is just, rosy. That's great, but we'll fix it when we fix it. As for now, though, I'm going to be saying goodbye, so thanks for all who tuned in. I really appreciated it. It was good. But I'm going to go now, so with that said, I'm Spaghetti King. I love you all, and farewell.